So, Fred and Ginger, Lennon and McCartney, Mick and Keith, Ben and Jerry's, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. All absolute geniuses or artistic legends in their own right. But together, they were revolutionary. I might be drawing somewhat of a long bow, but corporate partnerships really are no different. It takes two or more organisations with, I guess, similar alignments but separate business objectives to come together and collaborate to do something really remarkable. I would say revolutionary, but that's probably a bit of a stretch, but to come together and have some really good ideas and have impact. So I guess what I'm talking about today is that collaboration is the key to successful partnerships. Sorry about that. That's why Adelaide's Fringe, we use the term partnerships and we don't say sponsorships. In a study that was conducted last year with CSR consulting agency Cavell & Co, they did the Conscious Consumer Report, which looked into Australians' attitudes towards corporates and their lack of, I guess, commitment or action around corporate social responsibility. What they found was 36% of respondents said the term partnership suggested that a relationship is genuine and substantial, whereas only half as many said the same for the word sponsorship. Sponsorship is or implies a transaction, like a cash in exchange for exposure. There is an element of that in partnerships, but there is so much more that can be done when you collaborate. It's also about collaborating with a grander vision in mind. And the study also showed that that actually can prompt brand switching, especially when working with a not-for-profit. And as Robina mentioned, Adelaide Fringe is a not-for-profit. We also do have our own foundation. So the key to partnerships in this sense is that they are relevant, authentic, and action-led. And what I mean by that is if you're a brand in the room and you're going to partner with a not-for-profit, understand what is relevant to them at that particular time. So if you look at Fringe, for example, and you look at the communities that we talk about, so one might be artists. So artists are still struggling, I don't know if I can safely say post-COVID, but sort of post the real sort of big chunk of COVID. They were a community of people that sort of fell through the cracks somewhat. So they are struggling. Festivals across the country are cancelling. So we know that the cost to put on a festival, to be a venue, have skyrocketed. So that's an area that needs support. And then we're in a cost of living crisis. So communities out there are struggling to attend things like festivals or going to the movies or experiencing arts and culture, which is essential to their actual mental health and well-being. So the key is getting the collaboration right in order to not only address these issues, but also to deliver a return on investment. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. It's first relevant for me to describe and understand the Fringe model because that dictates how we do our partnerships. Contrary to what Robina said, I'm not here to pitch you Adelaide Fringe. This is not a partnership pitch. It's just relevant to understand. I'm hoping to just give you a bit of a different understanding on how you can approach partnerships. As you can tell by my really sexy cue cards, I'm not technically minded at all. So I won't go into the details. Thanks, Georgia. I won't go into the details of actually how we do the marketing campaigns. If you want to know anything about that, you can talk to Georgia and our marketing team because that is her area of expertise. Then I've got a bit of a list of keys to successful partnerships, or what I believe helps this happen. And then I'll go through some examples of our corporate partners that work really well collaboratively with Adelaide Fringe. So Adelaide Fringe is the Southern Hemisphere's largest arts festival. So over 8,000 artists from around the world come to South Australia in over 500 venues to bring life and culture and social cohesion to South Australia during February and March each year. That's 31 days, 31 nights. I hope I can safely say in this room, most people feel what the city's like and it comes to life and people are out on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night having a good time, spending money in the state's economy, which is also very important. As Robina mentioned, we do have a vision to be the most inclusive festival in the world. And one of the ways that we work towards this is through our foundation, Arts Unlimited. So Arts Unlimited exists to reduce the barriers for artists, venues and communities to experience Fringe. So just diving slightly further into this, what we are not is a curated festival. We don't buy artwork in. Artists choose us. That also means we don't own the tickets. So we have the ticketing platform and the marketing power and the brand that sell the tickets, but post-Fringe, we settle that box office straight back out to the artists and venues that participate. We are not a venue operator. We don't own any venues. We don't own the Garden. We don't own Gluttony. We don't own the Croydon RSL, the Port Pirie Town Hall. We don't own any of the venues, but we do support them. Without artists and without venues, we don't have a festival. We are also not government run. Whilst we do receive government funding, and that's with, I guess, an objective and a goal to drive interstate tourism and visitation, and we also use a big proportion of that funding to distribute as grants to local South Australian artists so that they can present their work on a global stage. So yeah, so what we are is the umbrella, the brand, the marketing power. You can kind of think of Fringe as like the Tinder for artists and venues. Look, I'm actually swiping, that's ridiculous. So yeah, we're the brand power, we're the ticketing platform, we've got the artists and venues services team who support year round. And we're also a marketplace for international buyers. I don't know how many people know this, but buyers from other festivals or theatres or TV shows like the Britain's Got Talent and whatnot, they come to South Australia to buy work to tour in either their own venues or their festivals or whatever else. So it's a marketplace and I guess a trade export opportunity for the state. A little bit further to that is the actual Fringe ecosystem. So it is a $35 million activity every year. But as you can see from the pie chart, more than 50% of the income goes straight back out to artists and venues. And outside of government funding, partnership dollars is the next highest source of income. So it's really important that we not only grow this and build this, but we also look at what that means for other income streams. So not just the actual dollars or the cash that we get in from partnerships, but also how we use partnerships to drive other areas of the business, or how we bring on corporate partners to boost ticket sales for artists and venues. So that's a really important part of the business. So why is this relevant? The top questions the business development team get asked from a brand that wants to partner with us: can we activate in the Garden of Unearthly Delights or Gluttony? Can we get our product in there? Can we get free tickets? And can we get naming rights of a tent? So as we know from what I've just told you is that we don't own any of these things, we can't do it. In terms of the tickets, we can, but we would never ask artists to give them to us for free. So we pay for the tickets, which means when we're putting together a partnership, we're factoring that into the income. And we have a policy that we don't service over 10% of the hard costs that go out. That makes sense. So we sort of do have to be very careful about how we do that. So exposure is really important. What we do have, as we said before, is the brand and the marketing power. 1 in 2 South Australians attend Fringe every year. So it's a brand that the South Australians trust, and that's often, in fact, if I go to the next slide, why is this relevant today? This is why brands do partner with Fringe. So also going back to that Cavell & Co report, those things alone, even Adelaide Oval, like your stadium advertising, your marketing, that's great, but that's not enough alone. That's just brand exposure. What else can you be doing to bring a customer or an audience member or whoever it might be along your journey of, I guess, the social impact that you're going to make? So the top 5 reasons that brands partner with Fringe are for investment in our vision, alignment, access to the 1 in 2 South Australians, and to support the people of the state. And being that like I said, we don't actually own a lot of physical assets, a lot of these initiatives that we work on with partners are delivered via really, really good marketing campaigns. Thank you, Georgia. And most of it's digital. So I guess what I want to look at today is how we do that. Oops. And the really important part of that is our fundamental role as Adelaide Fringe is to sell tickets for artists. So, which we use all these channels. But we have to be very careful about not flooding those channels with content that's not relevant to our audiences, or it doesn't support the purchase of tickets for artists and venues. Yeah. So every decision, every business decision at Adelaide Fringe is underpinned by our organisational goals and our commitments and our values. So for every partnership, we ask ourselves these questions. Does it serve our artists and venues? Raise the money, shout our story from the rooftops, draw the crowds, and live our culture. Shout our story from the rooftops is a really interesting one, because through the channels before, we speak to a certain group of people. But what we do with our partners is we find and we actively seek out partners who have audiences that we don't have. So we have the ticketing inventory, but we need to find more people to buy them, essentially, which came up in Jenny's presentation earlier, I think, about continuing to find new people to buy tickets. It's also the same concept of, like, your mum keeps saying, eat your broccoli, eat your broccoli, eat your broccoli, and you're not having a bar of it. But if your favourite cousin comes in and says that it gave her beautiful shiny hair and it tastes amazing, you go, oh yeah, okay, I'll have a bit of broccoli. So it's just getting somebody else to sell your story. So moving on to what I think are my keys to success. Please, if you're a brand in the room, do not ask for a generic proposal. There is absolutely nothing generic about a corporate partnership. This also comes to my next point, which is pick up the phone. I think so many people now forget that phones are actually more than just texting and social media and whatever else. Build a relationship with a corporate partner. There are difficult conversations you have to have, or maybe you need to ask for more money for something, or you have to pivot on something. Pick up the phone and have the conversation, which also feeds into defining and agreeing on partnership objectives. If a brand doesn't know why they're coming to you in the first place, like what they're trying to achieve, then that makes it very difficult as a rights holder or the not-for-profit to come up with initiatives that can address those particular business objectives. And then setting KPIs around it so that when you come to the end of in our case, festival, you can report against them really easily, which I've got down the bottom. I've already touched on being socially, culturally relevant and action-led. And I guess just in addition to that, going back to the Cavill & Co study, 76% of Australians believe companies should step up and invest more in charities and not-for-profits during the cost of living crisis. And 3 in 4 Australians say it's good when a company uses its promotional channels to amplify a cause, but believe it's a stunt or woke-washing if they can't see a genuine commitment to the cause. So it can't be all talk and no action. You can't just put your name next to something and expect that to be enough. You have to be seen to actually making a difference. Invest in success. So that's investing and leveraging. You've spent enough money on the actual partnership, but you might have other advertising or other media channels that you're already using. Use that to talk about the partnership and what you're doing. It's not all about cash. So $2.5 million, Adelaide Fringe generates $2.5 million in in-kind services with our partners. So looking at what else do you have that can be budget relieving for a not-for-profit or a rights holder? Be prepared to pivot. Successful partnerships have longevity. You're bringing people along for a story or a vision. So if something's not working, pick up the phone and have a conversation about what might not be right or how can you fix it. It's better to fix it than cut the whole partnership in the first place. Know the answer to this question. Are you brand building or are you just after exposure or visibility? We have definitely said to people before, I think you're just after advertising, or you haven't got your shop front, like your visual shop front, your Instagram or whatever ready. Get that ready first before we talk partnerships. Otherwise, it's not a wise investment of your marketing budget. I've touched on measuring and reporting. One more time, just for good measure, pick up the phone. I look after our principal partner, Bank SA, who've been with us for 20 years this year. And I speak to Kate at Bank SA more than I speak to my own husband during the day. Like it's a really easy, honest conversation. I can ask her very direct questions and she can have a very direct conversation with me. It's so important. Although, but looking around this room, I thought it might be younger, which is why I thought picking up the phone would be more relevant. But I think perhaps in here, you guys actually use your phones, so that's great. Not like age, like stereotyping or whatever. I've picked Lumo Energy SA to start with as a bit of an example or a case study. So Lumo Energy came to us during the pandemic, like early days, when we weren't even sure if we'd be able to have a festival. And they came to us just wanting to support South Australian communities. How can we align with one of their most loved brands, or how can we make sure that there will be a festival in 2022, I think it was. They also wanted to help tell artist stories and be seen as supporting the arts and artists and venues. So when they joined, as you can see, like in the last 4 years, they've seen 128% growth in partnership brand and awareness, and that's measured through our audience survey, and they've seen similar results in their own brand health studies. What we did is look at the communities that we serve and how can Lumo support them and amplify them in ways that also generate really authentic content and shareable content, sorry. So the first was the Lumo flash sale. So even Robina will tell you that selling tickets in South Australia is really hard with a lead time. South Australians are late ticket buyers. So if you're, yeah.
Guys, can we not wait till mid-June, okay? Because we're almost having heart attacks, okay? Please do the early bird, for goodness sake.
It's a stressful time. But if you're an artist who's invested in coming to Fringe and you don't, and because the Fringe program goes on sale in December, but if you're not seeing any ticket sales, you're panicking. So we were like, what can we do with the support of a partner to make audiences buy earlier? So you're supporting audiences and you're supporting artists by having a flash sale. So it was $5 off tickets, but artists didn't lose out on the discount because Lumo subsidised it. So it was an initiative that meant that we could sell tickets early, and it's just a one day in mid-January, so a month out from Fringe. And the allocation exhausts earlier and earlier every year because people, it's not so flashy anymore because people know to expect it, I suppose. But the other brilliant part of this, though, was 71% of the artists, so that's just over 1,000, opted into the initiative, which means that you've got over 1,000 organic brand ambassadors, not only for Fringe, but for Lumo. So we made them these social media tiles, and they were sharing them on the day, saying, look, I've got $5 off all my tickets thanks to Lumo. So it was a really effective campaign, and it's also got really good brand awareness through the campaign for Lumo. In the graph I showed before, there's a massive spike in their third year of partnership. And this is when we brought them onto the volunteer program. So when they talk about wanting to support communities, volunteers are another community within Adelaide Fringe. So we've got over 100 volleys. They're the face of Fringe for tourists or for anyone coming to Fringe, not knowing what it is they want to do or where they want to go. So Lumo provided them with branded t-shirts. There's an info booth at Fringe Corner. They also introduced the very first Volley of the Year award that they presented at the final Fringe Awards ceremony. And they threw them a party at the end of Fringe. So volleys felt supported, they looked good, and we did a series of vox pops with them as well. So again, authentic, shareable content. 94% of the volleys when surveyed felt supported, 87% experienced personal growth, and 100% would recommend volunteering at Adelaide Fringe. So both of these initiatives are relevant, they are authentic, and they are action-led. The next one is the Fringe Poster Competition. We've actually just closed our Fringe Poster Competition with over 300 entries, and over a third of those were from diverse artists, which was really amazing because it sort of reflects Fringe's ambition to be open and inclusive and accessible to all. So Lumo came on really late last year just to provide the prize money. This year, they wanted to be part of the story. So where their objective is to tell artist stories, they're now part of the year-round campaign for our poster competition. But they, the thing about the poster competition is it's an iconic South Australian poster comp. Like, I study visual communications, and I remember entering the competition as It was a project that we had to do. And actually one of the girls in my class won that year, which was pretty cool. But people remember what fringe they went to by what poster it was. Like the poster is all over the city. It's on trams and buses and signage and all the rest. So by Lumo aligning themselves with this, they're aligning themselves with the legacy. Like previous poster winners are like Pro Hart, Michael Atchison, Marley Isabel, Dave Court. And what they want to do is really tell the story of what happens after you win that poster competition. Where does that take you? Where do you go? And then the final one for Lumo is the Giving Day matching partner. So as I mentioned, we have our own foundation, and one day at the start of Fringe, we have a dedicated Giving Day. And that specific day is to raise money to buy tickets for marginalised communities and low socioeconomic school groups to attend Fringe. So there's a big marketing campaign around it, and we know that corporates being aligned with fundraising or matching partners drives donations. And it did. We raised over $100,000 in one day and helped send 6,000 people who wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to experience Fringe, thanks to Lumo. So again, this is action-led. This is showing that they've got a real commitment to the community, and also supporting artists to get bums on seats. So we're not giving away free tickets. They don't have to give us their tickets for free. We're still paying for them and buying them. I'm going to change tact a little bit here, and it's relevant because so you guys have got Heather in your mind.
You'll be getting a bottle in a minute.
Excellent. So where we talked about wanting to be supporting the community with Lumo, Heather and Yon just wanted to build their brand. So they're only 13 years old. They're a family-run business, but they view themselves as real growers and creators and, you know, people that fight everyday challenges, which is not dissimilar to the artists that we support. Mal, this is Mal. Mal and his brother grew up in a community or an environment which supports giving back and having a go, that real sort of, well, for them, real grass to glass philosophy. So they've actually connected themselves with the community through the arts industry. So in addition to Adelaide Fringe, they support Patch Theatre, the Mill and Sala at the moment, and there's a few others. But they actually broke through into the South Australian community through the arts. They don't spend a single dollar outside of that on marketing and advertising. They use their partnerships. So it's kind of that philosophy of shouting your story from the rooftops. They're getting other people to talk about their brand for them. And what we do with Heather and Yon is send offers and discounts to our various stakeholder groups, including our corporate partners. They also, we pour all their product at our Fringe events. We got them into some venues, so Fool's Paradise and some other bricks and mortar venues, so they are still getting an element of pourage. And they sponsored, or partnered, on the Best Eat and Drink Award, the first one, so that's Mal presenting the award this year. But they also have a huge commitment to sustainability. So Heather and Yon were the first certified organic sustainable wine brand in the state. So our team last year went down to their vineyard and planted like 1,600 trees. So it's a day of volunteering. And that's content that we can share. It's living our values. It's authentic. It's action-led. So as I mentioned, they crack the market. They don't do any other advertising. In their first year of Fringe partnership, their Fringe-related sales doubled, and then they returned 3 times on investment in the 2024 Adelaide Fringe. And they've also had a real organic growth in their social media. I just briefly so I spoke to Mal about this before I came and chatted to you guys today. And I just wanted to share something he said to me because I thought it was cute. I love that our family and friends enjoy it all from grass to glass. They get involved, they meet new folk, and they learn arts and crafts. Getting our hands dirty too with planting, workshops, connecting other wonderful supporting businesses, and encouraging local emerging talent. I had a tear in my eye when I saw people drinking our wine at the official Fringe event in 2024. How do you measure that? I don't really care, but it feels good to be part of it. So it's really that sort of living our values, and it's authentic content that we can share because it makes sense for our brand as well. Shifting gears again, late last year we received this letter from 15-year-old schoolgirl Olivia Madigan, and in it she she had a problem. She was like, youth don't know what to see at Fringe, or they don't know how to engage with the arts in South Australia. And she was like, I think I can fix it. I think I'll get a team of people to interview artists or to review shows, and we'll share it on Fringe social media. And we're like, this girl's great. She's sort of identified something that aligns with all of our organisational goals, and it's something we're really conscious of. But we also know Network 10 have a community engagement as their partnership objective, and we knew that we could amplify what we were doing. So we approached Network 10 and we came up with Fringe Through Young Eyes, which was 4 segments on 10 News First using just Olivia. So she interviewed a bunch of artists and she reviewed some shows so that 4 times a week, not only people her age, but also the parents that would probably typically buy the tickets, would be seeing on 10 News First what kids can go to. And the best part about this was that Olivia had a fantastic mentoring opportunity with Tiffany Warren, who was brilliant. So she learnt to review and interview and be on camera. And again, just another example of us living our values and making authentic content that we can share. Again, I've got a really small quote from Olivia's dad that I just want to share with you. She sent this to my colleague Nadia, who looks after Network 10. My wife and I have always been so proud of Olivia. To see the care and support you've shown her has been heartwarming. Olivia came up with a great idea that easily could have been disregarded, but you took her seriously and helped her make something special happen. Thank you for giving her this opportunity and going forward in her life, the belief that if she wants to achieve something, she can just go for it. I'm hoping to employ Olivia at some point in the near future because she's pretty amazing. The final example I just want to run through with you is Adelaide Airport, and I know there are some Adelaide Airport people here in the room. The reason I've picked Adelaide Airport is because it's a completely different partnership. So Adelaide Airport have been with us for well over 10 years, and we've pivoted many times, but the one thing that stayed the same throughout is staff engagement. So that's their main objective for partnership with Adelaide Fringe. So when they joined us, we used to have a parade, and there was an aeroplane and the staff participated in it, and then they danced along through Adelaide or whatever. There's 20 of them. But about 8 years ago, we cancelled the parade and invested that money back into supporting artists. So we've taken away the one reason we partner. So we're like, oh, great, what do we do? So we, for the last few years, have worked with South Australian artists to do various types of flash mobs with the Adelaide Airport team. So they've sung in choirs, they've danced, they played musical instruments with Adam Page, who's fantastic. But what they do is they do a few workshops in the lead up to this, so they learn new skills, they connect with each other, they collaborate, they build a community within themselves. And it's really important in the airport's overall staff strategy, because as I'm sure many of you know, staff turnover and staff retention is expensive. So investing in staff is really important and making sure their health and wellbeing and whatever else is really positive. So in their recent staff survey, they had a 74% overall staff engagement score, and 81% of staff, which is high by the way, and 81% of staff considered Adelaide Airport an employer of choice. So this sort of partnership is very much around bringing together a community of people. And you know, they bring family and friends on opening night to see them perform, and they have a party, and they know how to party. I actually went to their Christmas party last year because my husband, as it happens, also works for the airport. And a woman came up to me and she was like, I know you, I know your face. And I was like, I'm pretty good with faces. And I was like, I'm not sure. And she said, well, where do you work? And I said, I work for the Fringe. And she went, I've got it. It's your bum I've seen. And I was like, pardon? She was like, yeah. So the previous year where they did a routine, I'm the person they filmed for the choreography, and then all the team take it home so they can practice at home before they go and do it. And so at home, her husband, who worked for the airport, and her and their kids were all learning this dance. So it was a really nice way of building out a community of people beyond the actual staff members. It was kind of confronting, but that's whatever. It was great. You know, the airport's also the gateway to Adelaide Fringe. It's how people actually come in here. So we also activate the airport with changes every year depending on the poster. And then I just wanted to throw this in. So because we have a great relationship, we also involve them in other things. So we have a partnership with guide dogs as well, and what we wanted to do was content on showcasing that Fringe is accessible to all. And what this particular one was the journey through guide dogs' eyes from landing in Adelaide and then actually going through to Fringe. So this is, I think this is Elmo, the airport's guide dog, and Elmo met Esky, who's the guide dog's ambassador dog. They met at the airport, and that was their journey through Fringe. So not only did it showcase our accessibility initiatives, but the airport's commitment to making a really welcome environment for travellers as well. We also actually won last year the award for accessible tourism, the inaugural award for accessible tourism at the national tourism events last year. So it is part of our vision to be the most inclusive festival in the world. Wrong one. So going back to the very, very beginning, if you take away one thing from today, I want to remind you that collaboration really is key, and especially key to successful partnerships. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak created a machine that literally changed our lives. Paul McCartney and John Lennon formed a band that revolutionised the music industry. And Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are one of the best songwriting partnerships of all time, establishing a blueprint for all rockers to follow. Collaboration really is key. In the case of corporate partnerships, we're in a true position of power, as we're able to work together not only to deliver outcomes for our own businesses, but we have an opportunity to make real impact. The Katherine Co findings I presented today also reflect consumers' attitudes towards this. They want authenticity in partnerships, they want action, they're very used to and they're really aware of being woke-washed. Internally at Fringe, this is our Fringe team, we're a team of collaborators. Everyone in our team is on our journey to be the most inclusive festival in the world. Most of them understand our partners and our partnership objectives, so they're always constantly coming up to me with ideas about what we could do and how we could support various groups. And corporate partnerships are never simple. We get brands coming to us with ideas and we have to go back and forth before we finally get it right, or we come to something that delivers return on investment for both sides of the party, but also maybe contributes to a greater vision. So I can't believe I'm going to do this. My final word to you is actually through Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you'll find you get what you need. Thank you.
Awesome. It's funny, Jen, Ryan and I have been flip-flopping on the word partner versus sponsor.
Oh, there you go.
And we ended up caving on sponsor, and Jen just sent me an internal note saying, we're going back to partners. Thank you. That was really, really great. Has anyone got any questions? Yeah, questions? Questions for Kat is what I was trying to say. Any questions for Kat?
Right.
Awesome, Tiffany. All right. Maybe.
Has there ever been like an opportunity when someone's came to you wanting to it, and you had to be the person to be like, no, you don't align with who we are?
Yeah.
And how'd that go?
Adelaide's a small town too.
Yeah, Adelaide's a small town.
That's awkward.
Be careful about how I answer this. It was a really big brand, and didn't align at all with our values, and it would, I guess, be. Our reputation wasn't worth it, I suppose. And a lot of, when we do enter into sort of larger partnerships, they all go to our board. So there is a top sort of veto, but that's why we go through that at the very beginning, just to sound it out, essentially, but yeah.
My company does do a partnership with another local South Australian brand, and we have thought about reaching out to yourself and asking whether you'd like to partner with us. But you already have a partner for this particular. We'd be your ICT partner. Uh-huh. How do you pick between specific core partnerships like that? How do you evaluate whether they're better than us or we're better than you? Would you entertain more than one?
Yeah, so we, for the most part, don't have exclusivity in our partnerships, again, because collaboration is key. But we're also loyal. So depending on the brand, like if we've been with them for a long time, like we do occasionally go out to tender because something with like an ICT, both, either way, they're often sort of a cash-in-kind partnership because there's services that they provide to us. So it sort of depends on what's happening in the landscape there, and I would involve our wider team who actually use the services. So yeah, it sort of depends on the services in that case. Yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Kat. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for that. That was really helpful in a number of ways, personally and professionally at the moment. You touched early on about obviously the benefits of corporates and businesses partnering with non-profits. Mm-hmm. Adelaide Fringe also has non-profit partners. Mm-hmm. And from a non-profit perspective, are you able to give any kind of short, snippety insights about the benefits and considerations for those types of collaborations, particularly having much smaller budgets to work with?
Yeah. So in terms of our not-for-profit partners, they're all our access partners. So as part of our vision, we need to be able to provide services essentially that make Fringe accessible. So where we partner with Guide Dogs or Deaf Connect or the rest of them, that's also cash and in-kind services. So we get a lot of things audio described or Auslan interpreted. So I would look at what it is potentially that you're providing that might be able to offset something or support something, or what can you do collaboratively that makes a difference on a much larger scale? Yeah. Hope that helps.
Okay, I got a question for you. How do we make people buy tickets earlier?
Flash sale.
Seriously.
Flash sale.
Like I know I kind of made a flippant joke before about mid-June, but yeah, it is, it's amazing. It doesn't matter like how early we put out tickets, how much we promote it, do socials, don't do socials, emails, all of that. It always seems to be, it's almost in a financial year. Quick, I better use my budget. Or, oh, wait, I have no budget. I'll wait till July and then buy tickets. So, and that's partly why we do time the conference to be shortly after financial year so that, you know, if you've run out of budget, you can still go and find it. Or if you need to use up some, you've got some as well. What have you guys found has helped in that particular space? Just because that's the Adelaide market, right? It's just a reality of the Adelaide market is that we expect to be able to last minute buy. We had a ticket sold to Digital Adelaide, no joke, Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. No kidding.
It's hard, and we're constantly talking about it. But like the flash sale, I guess the beauty of the flash sale is that we're using artists to share it for us. So we can talk to people or our specific audience until we're blue in the face about it, but getting them to also share it really, so whether you get your speakers to do it, like finding those third parties that can do it, but outside of discounts and sharing it, it's really tricky. You got anything else to add?
Yeah, I was waiting.
This is Georgia. She's our marketing manager.
Okay. I guess we're actually about to, this coming season, that's been a huge focus of us, is trying to sell more tickets earlier, because at the end of the day, we're a business. We've got a job no matter what. It's the artists who are struggling, and for a lot of artists, it's those ticket sales that are going to make or break how well their show is in February and March and stuff. So it's a big focus of ours. So this upcoming season, we're going to test a number of new campaigns, which I won't say at the moment, but maybe next year we can talk a little bit about them a bit more, following the success and what worked and what didn't. So it's a lot of trial and error. I think it's also a sense of urgency, and also understanding what makes someone purchase a ticket early depending on their persona, because what makes a student purchase a ticket early is going to be different to an older person, and whether it's demographic or it's scheduling or it's because they love that artist and they don't want to miss out on that ticket. And so
And how
it's
do you
really
use
bespoke.
our partners to reach those specific target audiences?
So what I was going to say in terms of partnerships is we run a pre-sale with our Banker Say card holders, who is our principal partner. And last season we introduced a kind of a new campaign, which was like a 2-for-1 ticketing campaign. So for every ticket purchased on that one day of pre-sale with Bank SA card holders. You could get a second ticket to that same show for free, but Bank SA subsidised for the artist. And so in last year's, we saw double the number of tickets, not just because it's 2 for 1, but double the number of transactions that we've ever seen before, with a specific warm audience that we know that we've garnered and cherished over the years. So it's bespoke marketing, I guess, in a short word.
Thanks, Georgia.
Thanks, Georgia. Any questions for Georgia while she's standing here? Tell us about that new campaign. No, keep your eyes peeled because I'm sure it will be coming very, very soon. I think, has anyone else got any other questions? Or yes, it looks like a maybe question.
You did touch on it a little bit, so all good if you don't have a lot to add. Adelaide Fringe have moved away from self-managed events and infrastructure in recent years, and I wondered what sort of challenges that has caused for partnerships, because obviously a lot of partners want brand awareness, they want, events and people to see their brand.
Great question, because in truth, I guess that's what they partner with Fringe for, they're no longer aligned with our values. So there's not, there's not a partnership that sort of makes sense. But others have come along the journey. So like Adelaide Airport are a great example and sort of how we do that. Or there are people that used to just partner because we used to have a Fringe club as well, which cost so much money and everyone constantly complained about it. It was like nearly $1 million project. Again, something else that we took away and we funneled that back into supporting artists. But a lot of those partners that used to only be interested in corporate hospitality and entertaining clients have kind of come on our journey a little bit and now do initiatives that support artists. So it's sort of, if it's not your thing, then we're not the right partners. Yeah.